Yeah, let's tell the damn story with Chris Ryan. How are you? Hybrid writer of all sorts of stuff. And I get to talk to World Conqueror, the only person Kang is afraid of. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend himself, the slayer of nightmares and the weaver of dreams, the creator of Aaron Day, also known as the legendary Blackjack, the writer of Scooby-Doo and Archie and Batman and Soupy Doops and so many others. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Alex Simmons.
Da, 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 da. Hey, hey, Chris, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm always great when it's time
How
to
are
talk to
you
you,
doing?
sir.
Yeah, Chris is we've known each other now for what, 35 going on 40 years, something like that.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, something like that. Look, I met him when he had hair. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
lots of it.
yeah, and mine was a whole lot
Curly
darker.
hair.
Yeah, I had a lot darker hair and
Oh, and I had a Magnum PI mustache.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, people mistook me for Jim Brown when I met this guy. They don't do that anymore, right? Um, but Chris is actually, one of these days we have to talk about some of the stuff that you wrote when we were hanging out in those early days, like Billy Wizard and the Evil Eye, and
Yeah,
some of the other things, that
I
we
wrote that. I wrote that because your buddy, uh,
Barbara.
Barbara, God
Yeah.
bless Barbara. She got me mad because she wasn't impressed with my bona fides.
Yes, that's
And
right.
and in a kind of a peak of, I'll show her. I said,
Yep.
well, what do you have a lot of? She said, I just got in a box of hats, different hats from different jobs. I said, all right, this was on a Friday. So I'll see you Monday. And that weekend, I wrote Billy Wizard and the Evil Eye, and everybody who put a hat on became that person, that
Which
job.
became
And
a wonderful, fun, and inventive children's play
yeah, it's
that
pretty cool.
the organization that we were part of at that time, BCAY, Bronx Creative Arts for Youth, we produced it at a school auditorium. I think was it Lehman? Was it?
No, I think it was in the West Bronx,
Okay, so anyway,
but
but
I'm
it was
not
at
sure.
school because I can
Yeah.
remember the staging
Yeah.
and the monsters and things that
Yeah.
we had to
They
create.
created, I wrote something that shouldn't have been able to be done for the amount of money that we had to put on that
Which
show.
I think was what, $3.65, was it?
Yes, and the
Yeah,
65 had to go to the snacks for the kids.
yeah,
So at a certain point, the chalkboard comes alive.
yeah,
And it becomes, and the PA speaker for like the classroom becomes the Evil Eye.
yeah.
And they made that happen. It was great. It was crazy. And I hadn't seen it on, I'd seen when the kids were just practicing and that kind of stuff, but I hadn't seen that particular special effect. And I was, it's just one of
Yeah,
those rare moments when
yeah.
what was in your head is now on stage. Oh, it was very exciting.
It's a
And
ton
the
of
kids
fun.
were beautiful. They were really it was a rainbow coalition, all sorts of different kids from the neighborhood,
Yep,
and they were rocking. It was really
yep,
great.
yep. It was fun, and it's not a segue at all, but I'm going to use it as a segue to say it's
You
a
know us, I tell a damn story.
it's a
Segues
wonderful
are our
story about
business.
telling stories, and what we're talking about this time is telling stories and then trying to get them out to the public,
Right.
marketing them, how to get them before the audiences they were intended for.
Well, really, today is about that first step, and that's finding out who that audience is.
Yeah.
Who's your reader?
Yep. Yep.
Alex, when you were first asked that, who is your ideal reader? Who is your audience? Did you have an answer?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. I had the absolute penultimate answer to that one. Everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody will love this.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody will read this. I'm writing this for everybody, Garsh.
Right, right. That's right.
I got a
Roll out
barn.
the red carpet. Tell them to make room on the bestseller list.
That's right,
I have
because
begun to type.
I'm writing it. Right? This is going to be
Yeah.
it.
Well, and we all have that dream, and that's a beautiful dream to have. And
Yes.
then eventually we start saying, well, who is mine? Besides, your best friend or your wife or someone who will
Your
just read
grandmother,
it because
your mother-in-law,
they appreciate you, right?
Yep.
But who's going to plunk down some money and buy this thing and read it? And when I really had to start looking at that in workshops, no flarkin idea. For decades.
No farting.
Flarkin, yeah. I was just reading
a Muppet,
Guardians of the
Farfin
Galaxy Thanos comic.
Yeah.
And for some reason they were, it was they brought back Thanos from death or some nonsense to conquer the Cancerverse. I swear to God, this was it. And for some reason they were saying stuff like flargin. And it was like, remember a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about my brother's granddaughter, more or less granddaughter, who was calling him brah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This week I'm really smitten with the flargin.
Okay.
But
anyway,
I had no flargin idea, and for decades I've struggled with who this is, and there's a lot of traps, because you want to think, and it's embarrassing to admit, but I did it as well as so many other people. Oh, well, if I'm really honest with myself, I write a lot like Stephen King. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, buddy. Yeah, that's what it is.
You mean if you're really delusional about yourself?
That's your reader. Yeah. All of Stephen's readers. That's your reader. Sure. And once you get past that silly part of your psyche and all that, only then can you start thinking about it. And what we're trying to do today is to get you past that phase where, as Alex said, well, everybody, the entire world. Absolutely. And then I was a little better. All of Stephen King's, which is 4/5 of the world.
So one of the things you have to remind yourself of, and again, we've talked about this on numerous occasions, there is the creative experience, is writing for the love of writing, for the passion of writing, to tell your own story to yourself. There's greatness and warmth and wonderfulness in this. And then there's writing as a business.
Yeah.
And as a business, you need to know, who are my customers and where are they?
Yep.
That's where we're going with this. So,
and we've boiled it down. I did a lot of research, and it was the 10 steps, the 6 steps, and really there's 4 areas. There's 4 areas we're going to talk about that will help you find your reader. So it's going to be choice, research, your own author power, and community. Those are the 4 things we're going to talk about today, with the help of course, the legendary Alex's insight and whatever I can bring to the table, which is usually apple pie. All right, so
with or without coffee. Yes,
that's right. So the first thing that all the different and I went for as far as writers publications and Ingram Spark and blogs, and there was so many different, once you do the search you can find so many different sources, but they all seem to agree that the first thing you have to do is figure out the genre you're writing in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bear trap in that, right? Because many of us really write cross genre, right? Like my Mallory and Gunnar books are predominantly police procedurals, but I got this from my old man. He was a cop in Fort Apache in the South Bronx for most of his career, and he could always say, police they fall into a pattern, especially if he was in kind of a squad. He was in the youth division, wasn't a detective squad, but they would specialize and they would get calls about youths in trouble. One guy that he knows always picked up the phone and it was a runaway. There was no explaining why that always happened, and someone else gang fighting and that kind of stuff. And he got a lot of lost kids. He got a lot of this or that. You just go with it. You learn to go with it, right? So when you're looking at your genre, even if you say, well, it's a horror, romance, action, thriller, mystery, might have all those elements in, but what is it mostly?
Mm.
Right? Like my wife and I will both make. I'm full of metaphors today. My wife and I will both make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Right? When she makes it, it's mostly sandwich because the bread is a little thicker than the peanut butter and the jelly. It's how she likes it. She's subtle. When I make it, the peanut butter is in all caps and it's underlined 3 times and it's oozing out the side. And the jelly is more of a mystery. It's a hint. It's an allegation. You might not be able to prove in a court of law that the jelly is actually there. See, so you just have to be honest with yourself.
It's a
What
P
is
and
it
J with a
most?
hint of J.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a dash of J.
Just a dash. It's a little dash.
Little pinch.
A
of
pinch.
J.
A little a pinch.
Yeah.
So what is your story really? It may be mostly romance. There's such a thing as horror romance. There's such a thing as mystery romance.
Does that make it a
You know?
rara?
I mean, maybe. And this brings us to, well, do you agree with that? You have to know what genre you're writing.
The peanut butter and jelly? Oh, no. It helps in a number of ways to know what the heck it is you've written and really where you think it's going. It may be that your viewpoint is skewed by your prejudices, and I don't mean, racial. I'm talking about you may favor a particular thing. You may think that you've written such and such, and you can only see that. But the reality is, yeah, there are audiences for certain things. And sometimes that audience crosses over into another arena, but definitely there are audiences that love their, fill in the blank. And if you want to get that audience, then you've got to make sure that you have written material that is within the realm of the type of stuff they like to read or watch. And that requires a certain amount of focus.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's places you can go for help. I'm going to recommend a book. Right. It's called The Anatomy of Genres: How Story Forms Explain the Way the World Works. And it's by John Truby. Okay. He also wrote The Anatomy of Story. This is his thing. He breaks it all down. And these are the genres he talks about in this book: love, horror, action, myth, memoir, coming of age, science fiction, crime, comedy, western, gangster, fantasy, thriller, detective. Your story is probably going to hit one of these. So, The Anatomy of Genres by John Truby. It's it's sometimes this can go and be kind of real stiff going, but Truby has a nice light style. Well worth at least looking at from the library, if not picking up a copy. But that, if you like, how do I know the genre? Now there's your answer. You can research.
That's one way of going about it. Absolutely.
That brings us to step 2, and that's research. And this is where we fall into the Stephen King bear trap.
Okay.
Because what everybody tells you is that, go to a bookstore and find books like your book, right? But one of the problems, if you go to a Barnes and Noble, which is kind of the only chain bookstore, big buck, or Books A Million, there's 1 or 2 other chains like that. They're going to be dominated by the bestsellers. You think you might have a legal thriller. Well, the legal thriller section is mostly John Grisham, or something like that. If you're in the horror and there's 22 shelves, it's very likely that 10 of those shelves are Stephen King. And one of the things that you have to be kind of cognizant of is, are you swinging for one of the big publishing companies? Do you feel your book has that feel? Does it have the kind of feel? Does it hit the kind of genre tropes that the major companies are still publishing? You have to do some research on that. I want to be I want to be published by Doubleday. Well, go find out what they're publishing. Are they publishing the kind of stuff you wrote? Or are you really a better fit for a smaller company?
Yeah, or certainly a
You know?
different company.
Yeah. I
What
mean,
is it? What is it that Carol, one of our guests, Carol Geisander,
yeah,
what does she write?
she writes a lot of stuff, but she writes horror.
But what's the
Uh,
particular one that we found? So was it
Cyberpunk. She writes
Yeah,
Cyberpunk. Yeah.
cyberpunk horror.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one of the things is that, again, you go to a Barnes and Noble or a big bookstore like that, you're not going to see shelves and shelves of Cyberpunk. You go to a Cyberpunk con, you're going to find tables and tables and tables and more full of that.
right.
You go to an independent bookstore that specializes in that, you're going to find more. So that's why you have to kind of know what your genre is, know what and read a lot. Read a lot. Oh, I love Cyberpunk. Read a lot of Cyberpunk. Turn it around to the back. What's the name of the publisher? Go to their website. What other stuff do they have? Where can I get it? You might find that your natural place is more of an independent place. All right, I'm really more toward these kind of book publishers, maybe a smaller boutique publisher. Search and find. Sometimes you find your niche in a convention, whether it's a thriller con or a mystery con or a horror con. How can we find those? The Google machine, right? Horror con near me, or mystery convention near me, and then go and start looking and talking to
Sci-Fi.
them. They love talking to them. Pick up a few things. Alex Simmons has been to about 1,000 conventions in his lifetime.
I'm going to one this weekend.
Ta-da! See,
There you go.
Down to, I believe, Philly, right?
Yep, Philadelphia. I'm going to be at
There
ECBOC,
so,
the East Coast Black Age of Comic Convention. Yeah, Comic Convention.
There are conventions for every kind of genre. If you're a romance writer,
oh yeah,
well, they have their own association, horror writers association, mystery writers association, sci-fi. You can find your people, find your tribe, and talk to them and look at, what do you write? And you start seeing the similarities. It takes work.
So let's just review quickly. So
we're halfway through our list.
Yes, but let's review the first ones again. So
okay, first one is genre. You have to pick a genre. To pick a genre, you have to know the genres. We gave you a source, The Anatomy of Genres by John Truby. Pretty good, but you can Google genre. You can learn almost anything for free. So do some research in the genres, figure out what your genre is, and then that helps you get to number 2. Go to a bookstore, go to a convention, go to where the books are, and find similar books to you. And avoid the trap of immediately going to the biggest bestseller and saying, oh, that author is just like me. Well, they're not, because they have 102 books and this is your first book, right? I mean, right? So same thing with me. I can't compare myself to those guys because it's not my market. My market's a smaller market.
One of the things though with the second one, but give me number 3 first, because I want to go back to number 2.
Okay, number 3 is when we're gonna create our reader.
Okay,
so let's not do that until we do this.
Before we go, so number 2, the other benefit of number 2, aside from finding publishers and the material, looking at other material that might be like yours or would help you find your tribe per se, it does also help you start making connections with the community,
which again,
which is about building up connections and community and fan base of people who are getting to know you and getting to know your material as well. Because again, what we need to do in order to market to these people is to know where they are.
Yeah.
Where can you find them? Yeah.
And that's where conventions are really helpful. Or, you go to an independent bookstore that has the kind of stuff, or you go to one of the association that specializes in your genre, or Facebook has special pages for all of those.
Yeah.
You can find them.
It has a lot of groups. A lot of groups
in there. you can see what you're going to do.
Okay.
That is actually, we just did our fourth step, which was find your community, and we just told you the steps to do.
Which we'll repeat again, but
conventions,
yeah.
bookstores, Facebook and other
group.
social media.
Yep.
Go to Facebook groups. Go to the associations. If you're a horror writers association, very welcoming. There's mystery writers association. There's romance writers association, sci-fi, all of them. Okay, right. And there's even specialty. Woman horror writers or woman mystery writers. You're going to, what's the name of your con?
ECBOC,
which stands for
East Coast Black Age of Comic Convention.
Okay, see how that's broken down?
Yep.
It's not even national, it's East Coast Black Comic, right? So you can find your people, and that will help you build community, and community leads to figuring out what authors, what published work is like yours, what genre is really you, boom, boom. And then that leaves us one other thing to do, and that is to figure out what your reader is actually like.
Your archetype.
After doing a lot of researching and some of the exercises that we've been doing for other stuff, I realized that we can really tap into something that we've spoken about here on Tell a Damn Story, and just adjust it. I have a thing that has yet to come out, but it's somewhere between 130 and 148 character bio questions, right? And the idea is that you go for any character that you want to fill out and you're having a problem visualizing. There's the physical, age, height, weight, hair, all that stuff, but also bank account, what elementary school, what were the report cards like,
favorite,
a lot of friends, no friends, hobbies,
relatives,
all that stuff. And the more you know, the more you can walk around doing other stuff, mowing a lawn, cleaning the house, shopping, and still think about that. The more you will be informed with your character. Boom. All right, so we're going to take that concept and we're going to apply it to creating your reader. Okay. What do you think your reader's like? Is your reader 18, 12, 24, 50s? What do you think? You can adjust this as you go along. Is there a particular ethnicity? Do you think you're going to attract more readers from a local region, or do you think it'll be across the board? Will people in Arkansas like your story as much as people in Maine do? Are you more of an urban writer? Are you more of a Western writer? What do you think the economic
female,
status,
life choice,
life choice, right? Economics. Do they have a lot of money in the bank? Do they have, is this going to be a big purchase? Are they going to be borrowing your book from the library? Who are these people, right? And narrow it down to an idea in your head, the kind of person in your head. Sometimes when you go to conventions, stand off to the side, especially if you love the convention, and look who else is there, and then you start saying, wow, the people who love this kind of stuff look exactly like me, or they're a lot younger than me, or they look much more like bikers than I do, or stay-at-home moms, or they're much more business-like than I do. So you have that opportunity. You go on those pages that we talked about. See who else is there. Quietly take a look at that picture. Their head. What do they look like? And it helps start formulating in your mind your constant reader, to borrow Stephen King's phrase. And that helps you figure out who your audience is. Those 4 things.
Now, that you're going to, because we have done it also, that you're going to, some parts of you are going to argue that your material is for everybody, or you don't want to niche down, you don't want to narrow it down, you don't want to assume that it's only for this people, you don't want to only talk or sell to that group. The reality is that everyone isn't going to love what you do. And that's not necessary. That's not realistic, and it's not necessary. It's a wonderful thought. It's a very inviting thought, but that's not what happens. Right. And if we look at certain things, we look at, not everyone loves rock music or soul music. Not everyone likes rap or orchestral music. There are groups of people who like what they like. And the same thing with foods, clothing, TV shows, sports, you name it. So all you're doing, you're not saying poo-poo to anybody else. You're simply saying, okay, what group of people will enjoy what I'm creating? Are the natural, organic group of folks who will enjoy this material, because that's who I can aim my promotions to and try and become more in their sight. And at the same time, what is going to happen organically is you'll pick up some French people.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Just happens,
And one of the things we find out is the more specific we are in an action, in a belief in a story, in the characters' beliefs and morals and this and that, the more universal it becomes. The character may be eating cornflakes, and you may hate cornflakes, but you do love some other cereal, and you connect with that character because you've had that moment.
Yeah.
You had a lot of problems, or something was bothering you, and you sat down, with a soul healing bowl of Cheerios or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So
with bananas. Yeah.
Right. So the more you start thinking about this reader, the same way you think about your characters,
the more likely you're going to the more likely you're going to be able to zero in on them, and it's going to really help you with your marketing, with your getting your material seen by the people who will support it. And that's really what you want. It's not about ostracizing or shutting the doors on anybody's fingers. It's about opening the doors to the audience that's going to be most appreciative of your work.
Helps your writing too, because if you have that person there, Grady Hendrix, who writes really wonderfully well-selling books, who ripped pictures out of newspapers, magazines, and put them on his wall while he's writing a project.
Because that's who he's writing to.
There's no proof that person is waiting for this book, but it's just an image to help him,
Yeah.
And there you go.
So any other tips, Chris, before we say
I think we have enough to chew on, and it's just a way to get you moving forward with it. Get you past any of this stuff that might stop you or slow you down from telling your own damn story. And that's where we live.
That's a great closer. I just realized there's one more thing I just wanted to say.
But wait.
Yeah, but wait,
there's more.
Yeah, right. Don't feel that you've got to get this all together. Pardon me. Don't feel that you've got to get this all together in like a day or a week or a month.
We've been getting it together for decades.
Yeah. This is something that you begin to build your list on. You begin to make notes on. You begin to do a little bit of research on. And you practice and dabble and things like that, always looking for and trying to build on it. So don't feel like, I gotta get this together immediately. No, it's a process, and it'll take time, but it gives you something to work towards to help you, as Chris said, to tell your own damn story.
That's well said. Remember that time you had a video of a kid who came up to you were at a con upstate in New York, I think, and I couldn't make it. I wasn't there, and he wanted to meet Chris Ryan, and he went off on some story.
Oh yes. It wasn't a kid. It was a dude. It was a dude.
It was a dude. Yeah. That general face and person is often the person I see when I'm saying, "Who's going to read this?" Oh, that guy. So there you go.
There you go. Okay, folks, it's been real. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you find it useful. Let us know in the comments, please.
Right. If we weren't clear, ask us a question.
Yeah, or send us some suggestions or anything like that in the comments. That's absolutely what we're here for. Okay, Chris.
You might have another idea for us. So.
Yes, that's true. Chris,
sir,
take care.
Always a pleasure, sir. It's been my honor.
Peace.
Peace.